Hi guys, today I thought it would be fun to do a response video to a response video about one of my videos that happened about 6 months ago. It streamed live on March 6th, 2020. And so let's check it out.
I should have tried to email Susan Morales. I wonder if it's too late. Let's see here. If I click on her name, open new tab. Let's see, about... Okay, this is the description. I grew up listening to many people talk about God and yet never really teach the basics about God and the Bible. I hope to be able to share the simple things about God that I would have liked someone to have shared with me. I love to share what I learn. My videos aim to help shape our worldview to be one that is consistent with what the Bible teaches and to encourage us to put those beliefs into action each day wherever they may apply with the help of the Holy Spirit. I don't see myself on this YouTube channel as having an authoritative role or holding a title of any kind. I know exactly why she says that. But instead, I'm simply having a conversation with whoever wishes to hear my videos. Thanks for listening. She says that I don't see myself on this YouTube channel as having an authoritative role because I think Susan believes that a woman shouldn't have authority over a man, especially when it comes to teaching about the Bible.
Okay, so yeah, I would have appreciated an email or something because I came to know about this live stream as I was on my YouTube, and in the recommended videos I see that somebody has my video and they're talking about it live. So I wasn't too sure what was going on. It was almost finishing too. So this is actually my second time watching this video, and I thought it would be interesting to see like what I would respond to the questions or the things that he raised in this response video. Like for example, this thing that he said that I believe that men should have authority over women, especially when it comes to teaching the Bible. Yeah, I am convinced that that's what the Bible teaches, unless someone can like do more research and teach me otherwise, and I be convinced. I do think that a few of the most authoritative roles in the church are for men, and that doesn't mean that women can't teach in other roles or other capacities, but it is kind of debated currently among Christians, even how that should look, for example, on social media or like on YouTube, for example. So I just wanted to add that on my channel, just kind of as a disclaimer. Like, I don't see myself as a pastor here. Like, this isn't like me trying to have some type of authoritative role. I'm just sharing my thoughts. So I don't believe, though, that men have authority over women. Aside from what I just said, I don't think the Bible teaches that. I think women can be men's boss in jobs, or I think it's just very specific to those pastoral roles and a few other. And for example, in the home, I do believe God wants to place this order where the husband is the head of the wife, but I don't believe that any other man has authority over me or has authority over any other woman. So just want to clarify that real quick.
I could be wrong. She might not believe that, but let's see. But no email address.
So you were half correct there, Doug. And by the way, I have nothing negative to say about Doug. I respect that he was doing his best to be cordial, and he considered the things that I had to say.
Okay. Well, hopefully she sees this in the future. I doubt it, but let's. Well, I'm gonna let this play, but if Susan, if you ever see this, full disclosure, I call myself an atheist. Although it's interesting that when I describe what I believe or what I don't believe in sentences, long sentences, most Christians say I'm not an atheist. But I think a lot of Christians, especially apologists, like to view me as an atheist because that way they can definitely put me in a tribe that's against their own, and it makes it more fun, I think.
I may just be speaking about myself, but I do notice that atheists tend to make us enemies, Christians versus atheists, and I don't really see it that way. Like, I just see it as you have your own beliefs and I have my beliefs, and it's not like trying to pin you down, and like there's nothing personal like that going on, at least with me.
So this is Susan Morales. I'm going to play a couple videos of hers. Oh, welcome. Who was first? Slightly Odd Guy. You were first. Humble Thinker, you were second. Man, you're always here quickly. So let's take a listen to what Susan Morales has to say.
Hi, everyone. Today I'm going to talk to you about what has got me interested in apologetics as of recently. I was introduced to apologetics by some of the people that I follow on YouTube, but I always thought I'm not really interested in that kind of stuff. That kind of stuff is more like for people that don't have faith.
Apologetics is more, at least initially she thought apologetics was more for people who don't have faith. That's very profound. It's like the people who have faith, trust, we'll call it, in God, they don't need stinking apologetics because they have this personal relationship with the creator of the universe. They don't need anything more than that. This gets back to what Mike Winger was saying, the inner testimony of the Holy Spirit. But she got interested in apologetics from what? The apologetic empire. This is great.
And what the... It is great. So I wanted to say something about what I said about... I try to be very honest in all my videos, and so whatever you hear me say, I genuinely believe that, and I genuinely believe that apologetics is more of a information that helps people that perhaps are like an atheist, that have questions, have doubts, that it gives them answers to help them with those doubts. And not just doubts, but it gives them information that they may not have already, which is why maybe you lean towards believing something, because you're just missing like an answer for your question sometimes. So I guess that's what I mean. And so I personally was not in that situation, although I have perhaps had a couple of times as a Christian where I did kind of like have these questions, but it was nothing like where I stopped believing or anything like that. And another thing, I think though that the Bible is in its own way apologetics, because as you're reading it, even if you never hear or read a single book on apologetics, as you're reading the Bible, you are getting reasons for why you should believe that God exists, why you should believe that Jesus Christ resurrected from the dead, and you're having a lot of like prophecies that you're hearing. You're hearing testimonies in the New Testament. You're hearing things about even life, about how it goes with our reality, morality, like how to properly view women, things that are so countercultural. And all of this, to me, is very convincing, more so than all the other worldviews. So the Bible itself served, in a sense, as its own apologetics to me. And I wasn't, when I watched the Apologetics Empire, if I'm completely honest, I wasn't that interested in learning the things that they were talking about. But, that changed. Now I am, and I am more interested in that. Bible teaches, and I just always felt like I don't need it. I'm okay with like just having faith in God and the Bible, and the Bible has always just made more sense to me rather than like the other worldviews that I am very well aware of.
So she's saying the Christian worldview makes more sense to her than other worldviews. Isn't that the case for any adherent to a religion or a worldview? Like, Susan, can you imagine a Muslim saying, you know what, Islam just doesn't make sense to me, but I'm a firm, faithful Muslim?
Okay. See, that's where I disagree. A lot of religions are very anti-women, and they teach things that contradict instincts that women have. You just naturally know you're not supposed to be seen as like less human or less equal than a man. You just intrinsically know that, I believe. So I would have, if I grew up in a home that taught a religion that was oppressive to women, I would definitely question that, and I would be more attracted to Christianity that taught the equality of women.
Can you imagine a Mormon saying, Mormonism really doesn't make sense to me, but I'm a strong adherent to Mormonism in the LDS Church? Of course, the culture you're raised in, the religion that you're raised in, and even a religion that you convert to, is going to make more sense to you compared to other worldviews
out there. So what actually got me interested in looking into apologetics is there was this YouTube event that I was watching, and
I was watching the same one, Susan.
A bunch of YouTubers that talk about apologetics, Christian apologetics.
Oh, Aisha Miles. Aisha, I can't say her name, in the live stream chat saying maybe you're getting interested in apologetics because you yourself are doubting, because you just said that you thought at first apologetics was for doubting Christians.
No, I wasn't doubting. I was interested in watching it because I followed YouTube channels like Mike Winger, What Do You Mean? I was starting to watch some of the other apologetics channels, but those were the main ones, and I was just kind of interested in what this apologetics empire was all about, and so it was more curiosity. It wasn't like because of doubts. And so on the live chat, a lot of people were noticing that there weren't a lot of women apologists, or any, at that event. And so someone in the chat said it's probably because women are not confrontational, and he made the point that there weren't a lot of women out there.
There are quite a few, well, not as many as men, of course, but there's several women apologists that I've reached out to personally, and I just got shunned. In fact, if I do more interviews in the future, I think it's only with females. Gotta support the female apologetic empire.
Well, you're gonna have to do a little better than that if you're gonna want them to respond to you, Doug. For example, like this title, kind of like a clickbait, right? Pretty clever. Supporting the first woman in the apologetics empire. That was a nice spin to my video that didn't have anything to do with that. But I actually have something to show you regarding this. I have a clip from that. And David Wood talked about it. I remember hearing that, and that's what kind of stopped the live chat conversation I was having with someone. Let's hear it.
Andrew, did get several questions on why there are no women here. And are women even allowed in apologetics? Why are there no women here? Just keep in mind, this is the first meeting, and we were blessed that an anonymous, very, very famous sports figure allowed us to use his house to get together. But since we're all going to be staying in the same house, it was kind of if someone had a wife, like Bobby brought his wife and so on. But we didn't want to bring in a bunch of women apologists and all of us be sharing the same house. Yeah, that's true. That's true. That would be okay then. So for the future, we would have. And if you go to CIA, you'll know that there are plenty of women speakers in apologetics, although not nearly enough. So if you're interested, certainly get involved. For the future, when we get together for meetings like this, we'll need a slightly different setup, but we'd be happy to do that. Question was from Mrs.
Okay, and I'm not sure if I'm hearing it incorrectly. They were having some problems with their audio, but I think he said CIA. I'm not sure if he knows of a website that I'm unaware of, but I think probably you meant WIA, which is Women in Apologetics, and you can find it in womeninapologetics.com. If you go down to About, you click on Professional Female Apologists. Okay, I'm having problems with my internet apparently. There we go. You get a long list of women apologists. So I recognize Elisa Shielders. I'm sorry if I said your name wrong. Amy Davison from Mama Bear Apologetics. Amy Hall from Stand to Reason. Who else do I recognize? Hillary Morgan Ferrer from Mama Bear Apologetics. They have their book. Elizabeth, also, I've heard some of her things. Let's see. I've had Lori Morrow, as well as you, Doug, on my channel. Nancy Percy, sorry. An author. Natasha Crane, also author. SJ, very active on YouTube. So I'm pretty sure that there's more. I know a few personally, women in a book discussion group that I participate in, that there are these women that have their degrees, their credentials in apologetics. You just might not see them on YouTube or on a website, but they're out there. So just wanted to share that. Here's the Mama Bear Apologetics.com, also a great resource. So let's keep going. So my personality is kind of like in elementary, whenever the little boys would come after the little girls, I would always like go defend the little girls and like try to chase off the boys.
I like her. She's spunky.
And so when I hear, that's what my husband says too. Hear things that are like, girls can't do that. Women, there aren't any women apologists out there. Or, like women's brains, are very different from a man's brain.
See, I can tell she's a lot like me in the sense that she's a bit of a contrarian. she's saying, oh, people are saying women are not confrontational and they can't do apologetics. So guess what? I'm here. I'm going to do apologetics.
I'm not. Honestly, I'm not a contrarian. I know people that are like that, and I am not like that. But what I am is really passionate about the truth, the value of women. And so whenever I hear something that is not the truth about women, it gets my attention. So when I noticed that there weren't, well, to my knowledge, I didn't know that if there were more women apologists out there, I became curious about that because it just seems like there isn't much where women haven't already, like, I don't know, like, come into that area. So it was very intriguing to me. And it wasn't that there aren't any women apologists, so I'm going to be an apologist. It was like I want to find the women apologists. Not I want to become one. I wanted to find them. And if there is this lack of women, maybe I should be more interested in this subject, because I don't believe that there is anything that is like where only men can understand it. So I thought it was a good point, if there are so few women apologists out there, then it is worth learning about it, but not to become it just because, I'm a contrarian, but because I recognize that, that's a good point. Maybe we're not paying as much attention to something important that we should be. And that's why they're not interested in this. It almost comes across like we're not built to study this type of stuff. And so I just kind of think, no, that can't be the reason why, why there aren't a lot of women apologists out there, I don't know, except I can only provide an answer for why
why aren't there more female poker players? Why aren't there more female chess players? Why aren't there more female hunters? There is some validity to this question, however. If you talk to any of the men that have been in apologetics for decades, they'll tell you that whenever they've taught this material, the audience is mostly men. So there is this question that is asked a lot in the Christian apologetics world. And people will tell you, even like women that have studied it, have gotten their degrees, they'll tell you that it was if it wasn't just them being the only woman in the class, there were a few others, and now is where you're seeing that there are more women becoming more interested in apologetics. The woman wasn't very interested in apologetics. So I think that the real reason is that we don't realize how important and relevant it is for us to learn about apologetics as women, as mothers, because we don't realize how impactful certain arguments out there can be. Was it arguments, Susan, that got you to be a Christian? Was it apologetic type arguments that said, yes, I now believe Christianity is true and now I'm going to be a Christian? I'm willing to wager 10,000 pine points that's not the case, but I could be wrong. Like I said earlier, if you consider the Bible as a book full of apologetic arguments, then yes. And I do consider it that.
I do think that apologetics does bring people to faith in God. Maybe not everyone, but I think it does happen for some people. To whoever doesn't have any other explanations, any rebuttals to compare, whatever arguments against God are out there and will be told to them one way or another. We hear it all the time through media, or books, or teachers, professors. So
Yeah, Reed, nice to see you here. It says, think of the children. Yes, if you care about your kids, women, Christian women, you should get in apologetics. In fact, because there was that comment in that live stream chat during the...
Honestly, yeah. If I didn't have any kids, there would be very little motivation for me personally. A person that's convinced already, there would be little motivation for me to look into it. And not just me as a woman, but there are a lot of men out there that are not interested in it. So I think it's kind, it's loving for any parent that even if your child isn't a believer, maybe they've grown up already and they have questions. I think it's loving that you as a Christian do whatever you can to provide, you respect your children enough to study and look for an answer that would be satisfactory to your child. I don't see anything negative about doing that or learning apologetics for that reason.
The Apologetics Empire live stream, because someone said, well, women are not confrontational and stuff. This is the reason why she became an apologist, or is becoming more active at least. So maybe we need to do that to get more women into it, get more of that contrarian vibe. So I'm going to say this. Yeah, women can't do apologetics. No way. They're too quiet and shy and non-confrontational. No, they can't. They can't do it. Come on, let's get real. Women can't do apologetics. This is my way of getting the fire lit so they'll actually start doing it.
So I never said that I wanted to become an apologist. I wanted to find the women apologists that are already out there, the women that are writing the books, the women that are speaking in conferences, the women that perhaps have YouTube channels that I haven't heard about yet. Even now, I say that I'm studying apologetics. I don't call myself an apologist. So that wasn't even a reason why I became interested in studying apologetics. It was that I realized that there are good reasons for looking into apologetics. So I think that for me, I went on one more thing. That's not going to work on women. If you're really trying to get them to engage in apologetics, a lot of women will just pretty much laugh at what you just said, and we all intrinsically know that that's a lie. We can learn whatever, we want to. They might just say, not interested, don't have to prove anything to anybody. So actually, for anyone that would like to hear my thoughts on how you could get more women interested in apologetics, is you bring into the light the women apologists that are already out there. Because for whatever reason, women just know how to talk to women. And I think sometimes apologetics is very packaged to a male audience. And for me, for example, there are a lot of apologetic topics that I would love to hear more about. Things that focus more on women issues that come up in the Bible. And so I think that depending on the topics that apologists are putting out there, their conversations, there are discussions. For example, Natasha Crane, she writes books about like how parents could talk about, apologetics to their kids. So that is more like attractive to a woman versus if you just write a book on like the Kalam. Also, maybe stop saying that women are not interested as much as men. And also, there's this whole vague argument out there about how women can, to what capacity women can teach apologetics. So there's a lot of factors, a lot of things that need to be talked about among the men that are leading this, because there are reasons why there aren't a lot of women interested in it. And I think it has very little to do with their gender, but there are ways that you can package it so that it is like women can see the relevance for them to learn it. Not to mention that women often are mothers. Yes, like my own child walking into the room right now. Come here, Papa.
Is it on your video?
No, I'm not done yet. So, for a woman to learn apologetics is going to take perhaps more effort. Also, creating an environment where women can learn and can ask their questions, preferably among other women. All of that would be helpful for women, I think. A search, right, like on YouTube and Facebook, Instagram, I'm looking for these women apologists, and I did come across
Yeah, I actually had a list of like 10 of them that I could maybe even share with you, but I forgot. And I don't have that list in front of me.
some, and something that I found really helpful for me to get started was this book called Mama
Oh, yes, that's one of them. Mama Bear Apologetics.
Bear Apologetics by
Morgan.
Hillary Morgan Ferrer.
Yes, and in fact, Hillary, you're invited to come on my channel anytime you want.
And the first chapter is really go into depth about how important it is for us as mothers to learn this kind of stuff for our children's.
Yes, it's very important. Now, if this is one of my favorite questions, Susan, if you ever watch this, is like, what's the big deal if your children are not Christian? What's the worst that could happen? Do you think you could be a great parent, teach your children how to be kind to other humans, teach them how to be self-sufficient and productive members of society, but let's say you do all that, but they're not Christian. What's the worst that could happen?
Benefit. I want to answer this carefully because I know that, Doug, you have a Christian parent, right? So you're kind of asking like, why is it a bad thing to be me, pretty much? What's the worst that can happen? So you have to remember that from your perspective, there is no harm for that, right, to happen. But with the Christian worldview, it's like the worst thing that can happen because you as a parent, you don't want your child's eternity to be in hell. And so it's, if your parents love you, they're going to want to keep that from happening to you. Like if they truly believe the worldview that they say that they believe, that's like the worst thing that can happen pretty much to their child. But I agree with you that I think that you can still be a decent human being even if you aren't, like it goes both ways. Like if you're a rude person and you're an atheist, then you're gonna be a rude atheist. And if you're a rude Christian, you're gonna be a rude Christian, right? So it just depends on like the kind of person that you are. But a lot of it does have to do with like your worldview. Like there are just some things that Christians are convicted about if they do. And so you might not like react or respond in certain ways that if you didn't believe in the Bible at all, like you would feel like I'm free to do, I'm free to treat other people in a certain way. But like I said, even Christians that say they believe, the Christianity worldview, they don't even follow their own worldview often. So, there's no stereotype there. But there are some stories of like moms out there where like their children that grew up in.
Brenda in the live stream chat says, Doug is a sexist. I am not a sexist. I just think women cannot do apologetics.
The faith that went to church every Sunday. So I'm guessing that's your joke, right? You're trying to get more women into apologetics. It's as easy as them having an atheist boss to convince them that God is like Santa Claus, and there went like their child's faith. And if you really believe that. By the way, we're like opposites, I think, Doug, because I used to be really sarcastic as well. You have the whole sarcasm thing going on. And little by little, like I kind of left that and I try to like say what I mean. So sometimes now that I've kind of dropped the sarcasm, sometimes it's hard for me to remember like, wait, other people are not trying to do that like you are. So sometimes I'm a little confused, like, is this a joke, that, someone's eternal destination.
Here it is. I just asked the question, what's the worst that could happen? And she's answering that question.
Can be lost that easily with just someone like proposing an argument.
Susan, I asked this question so many times, what's the worst that could happen, on purpose, because I want Christians to realize that really what they're talking about here is the eternal destiny part. Because I think most Christians admit that your life might even get worse if you convert to Christianity. A lot of Christians admit that. Blessed are those who are persecuted for my sake, for example. And so, but there's so many Christians who have this really gut-wrenching, terrible, no good, rotten feeling about this concept of hell being a really bad place for eternity, that by God not letting you into heaven, he's actually sending you to hell. It's a dichotomy in most Christians' minds. And so that's why I keep pounding that idea over and over again, because I realize that it goes against most, especially mothers' intuition, that an all good, loving God could stop people from going to heaven. And this is why a lot of Christians are changing their mind about their view of hell, saying things like it's locked in the inside, like C.S. Lewis said, or that eventually everybody ends up in heaven and maybe there's a little time of spanking going on, but eventually God redeems everyone to himself. Christians are starting to really move, at least in the United States, move away from this concept of this eternal bad place, because it just goes against everything inside them.
Okay, yeah. There's all kinds of Christians out there. There are a lot of Christians that I want to avoid listening to and learning from, because you can like stray from like the original teaching of the Bible. So you don't want to be creating your own Christianity like you hear a lot of progressive Christians doing these days. They do want to package a religion that like no one can be offended by what you believe, So the hell thing, yeah, you hear people like not even preaching about it, not talking about it, avoid it. And to me, it's like Christians need to be so aware of the reality of hell in the Christian worldview, because if you really believe that, for example, if you really believe that an atheist like Doug could go to hell, then you should love Doug enough to pray for him, to talk to him, to answer his questions, and but you see a lot of Christians not even like thinking about that. I think that's one of the greatest like motivators for evangelism. Like just being aware, hey, there's this eternity coming, and a lot of people are not going to have that heaven, eternal life. So yeah, you definitely cannot group all Christians or judge like all Christians on the same category, because there are a lot of Christians that are speaking against those Christians that are like trying to change the Bible and what it says. And being persuaded, like then me as a mom, I'm going to want to be the first person to present these arguments to my kids at the appropriate times and provide an answer and a rebuttal against these things. So
yeah, I'm sure Mormon mothers do something similar. I'm sure Muslim mothers do something similar. They're the first people in their child's life, or the father, to present these arguments to help shore up the faith.
Me personally, don't forget to add atheists, because I have heard stories of atheist parents also like teaching their kids about atheism, and they're like really little. So, you do grow up and with the parents that you grew up, and I don't see anything wrong with that, honestly. Like, if you believe something is true, why wouldn't you teach your child what you believe is true, right? But just because all religious mothers do that doesn't mean that one of those types of mothers isn't right. One of those mothers has to be the one that is teaching the correct thing to their children. I'm convinced that this has nothing to do with gender, and it actually is pretty obvious when you look at just men as well. Like, there are a lot of men out there, Christian men, that are not looking into apologetics as well.
There's a lot of Christian men that are not looking into apologetics as well. I have a feeling some male apologists might say that it's because they're not being manly enough. They're not being the spiritual leaders in the home, and apologetics is part of being a spiritual leader. Maybe not in the church, as an elder or a pastor or a deacon, but for sure in the home, apologetics should be paramount.
You know what? From the time that I've started listening to apologists, it seems that the majority doesn't feel that way. In churches, hardly any apologetics seems to be like on the priority list. That's why you have a lot of Christians that they don't really know anything about apologetics. So I'm sure the guys, the men that are into apologetics, do feel that way about teaching their children, but I'm not sure all Christian men believe that. And there's a lot of women that are not looking into it either. But there are some women that are looking into apologetics and are great teachers at it.
See, I actually wish my wife would become a female apologist. I think that would be great.
And are writing books. Maybe not an apologist, but she can look into apologetics. That would be great. So it's not, you shouldn't feel like if you're a woman, you're not capable of, and you shouldn't be intimidated that it's like mostly men in that field currently. Instead, I think that what should really be happening is that men and women should both be coming together and really learning this and teaching it to each.
But Susan, how do I think some women are scared to go into apologetics because of what you wrote in your description of in your about tab, when you said that you're not in an authoritative role or giving yourself a label. As some women just feel that it might be borderline sin to actually use apologetics to evangelize or to help boys, young men, to become stronger Christians, because you're building up their spiritual faith as a woman to a man. And some women just view the things Paul said as, no, you can't do that. Of course, I'm sure you don't believe that, but I think a lot of women do.
I can respect Doug for taking the time to actually think about what he just said, because I wish more Christian men would, talk about these things, because he's right that there are a lot of women that are asking, is it okay for women to teach apologetics? Is it okay for women to teach the Bible on YouTube? And you either get some very strict answers like no, or you get I don't know. You need to search the Bible and try to figure it out, pretty much. So I know that this is something that I personally, if I felt that God was telling me, making me feel, teaching me through the word that what I'm doing is wrong, by talking about apologetics, by sharing my thoughts on the Bible, if I felt conviction about it, like I have felt conviction about other things, I would obey God and I wouldn't do it. But I don't feel conviction about that. And it is something that I have thought a lot about, I wouldn't want to do it if that's not what God wants me to do. And it would make my life a little easier if I would just focus on like my home and like not even be making these YouTube videos. But I do feel that part of loving people is sharing about Jesus to them. And so I do what I can on YouTube. And like I said, I'm not trying to become a pastor, or like anybody can click like, stop. Nobody has to listen to me. So I think it's a completely different thing. And it is something that more Christians, men and women, need to talk more about, because it could be a reason why some women might avoid apologetics. Another reason perhaps is that they want to avoid asking those questions that might cause some uncomfortable feelings. You might have to go on uncharted territory that you've never really given like long thoughts on things that other people ask because they doubt God. So I think there's a little bit of that too, if I'm honest. Each other together, because
God equals the square root of -1 says, be careful what you wish for about my wife becoming an apologist. No, I mean it. I think it would be a hoot if my wife became a YouTuber, apologist, female for the Lord. That would be, oh man. If she had her own channel, I had my own channel, and then maybe once in a while we could join forces.
I'm kind of curious. Like, I would love to like talk to your wife, because she seems like I don't know. It must be interesting. Men have a lot of opportunities, but women have, perhaps even more so unique opportunities, even within the home. At least it is the case for me. I'm the one that is with my children most of the time. So
yep.
I can teach my kids so many things.
It looks like you teach your kids music. I bet you anything, I'll bet 10,000 pine points that she and her husband are involved in music in the church. They might even be on the worship team looking at that. Is that a mixer board? Yeah, soundboard in the back.
Someone needs to take away 10,000 points. No, it's not because we're in a worship team currently, but yeah, we have been in worship teams before. Currently we make our own music. We have our own music YouTube channel, Susan and Ron. So that's why we have that set up. And I can take advantage of this time that they're still young, and that now is the time when, you lay the foundation for them, because soon enough, they'll be doing their own thinking. They'll be accepting what they believe.
Oops. Soon enough, they'll be doing their own thinking, so we need to think for them now. I would be careful saying that, Susan.
Well, yeah, if I knew that an atheist was going to be like picking at my every word, yeah, I would have said it differently. But you know what I mean? What I mean is, at some point, you take responsibility for your own beliefs, whatever age that is. It could be teenagers, or, when you go off to college. So that's what I mean. It's more logical and believable. They'll be evaluating the evidence for themselves, and you really just want to...
No Windows 95. This is at 1x speed. I'm just savoring every moment of this. I'm not going to speed it up.
Help them to...
I speed up men, but I don't speed up women.
Be able to see through deceiving arguments or just faulty...
I'd never speed up Shannon Q's content.
Thinking.
But Apologia, I just, 3x it.
And this is why I really feel strongly that it's not any... I know who he's talking about now. Like, probably the first time I saw that, I probably didn't know who Shannon or her boyfriend, right, is. Thing that women can't learn. It's just like anything else in life, that it's gonna take some work to learn, and you can do it if you put in the work. And there's...
Susan, you need to get their competitive juices up by saying, no, you guys can't do it. You women can't do it. You're too scared. Get it? Because it worked for you. You got into apologetics from people saying you can't do it. So you got to kind of use the reverse psychology.
People up? Well, what we ended up doing, actually, me and two other ladies that were interested in discussing apologetic books, we put an invitation out there for any women that would be interested in discussing apologetic books with us on Zoom on a weekly basis. And we didn't tell them that they were incapable of learning apologetics. So it's possible to get women interested without offending them or telling them lies. Out there that are already teaching it. It's not like you have to learn it all by yourself. You can ask questions, and...
Yes, asking questions. Street epistemology. Susan, if you've never heard of it, look into it. Or the Christian cousin to street epistemology is the Kokel method by Greg Kokel. That is, in fact, you don't even have to know much. All you have to do is know how to ask the right questions at the right time to get at the root of why someone believes or doesn't believe.
Yeah, now I know what you're talking about, Doug. It's on my reading list, but I have heard him talk about his tactics. Especially women, like when women see other women talking about these things, it like intrigues us, and perhaps we're even better able to explain certain things in ways that we will understand it. As far as like this book goes, I feel like that's exactly what I just said, that This book
By the way, this is almost done, this video, and I'm going to play this video next. It's Is the Bible True? Evidence in the Bible. So that's coming up.
really helps women to understand like how specifically in their role as a mother, apologetics plays such a huge role, and it's so important for, for your child's faith and really ultimately like where they spend their eternity.
See, there it is again. I was on Braxton Hunter's channel. Again, support Braxton Hunter, Trinity Radio, because his YouTube channel is specifically for atheists. So Christians, you don't even need to watch. It's for atheists. And and he said the same thing. I asked him the question, and this is a theme for evangelical Christians. It's all about the afterlife, because life is just a vapor here on earth.
Yeah, actually Braxton is probably one of the more I would say like loving, respectful people out there on YouTube. It just seems like he really does care about atheists, and it's sad, but there aren't a lot of Christians sometimes that feel that way. Sometimes Christians avoid having these type of conversations. So yeah, I think Trinity Radio is definitely for atheists, but for Christians as well. You can learn a lot on that channel. So
Finbox asks, isn't it sexism that you speed up that I speed up men and not the women? Yes, of course it's sexist.
I wasn't excited about
I prefer the opposite sex. What can I say? That's why I'm married to a woman.
learning apologetics a few weeks ago. By the way, you could speed me up if you want to. It seems like your viewers need to be entertained and need to hear things super fast. But now I can see the importance, and that it's not just for people that, I should say some of your viewers, that don't have any faith. And it's not something that you have to be confrontational about in the way that you talk to other people. You could.
In fact, I agree with that. In fact, if you're confrontational, odds of success goes down in evangelism. And so I'm going to, when we go to your next video, Susan, Is the Bible True? I'm just going to give you some honest questions and some honest perspectives from someone who might disagree with you. And I know I've been joking around in this video, but that's just part of my nature. I don't mean any offense in anything I'm saying, but I'm sincere. I want you to succeed. I want to help not only you, but other apologists become better apologists.
Simply just make a statement, and if you don't want to do the whole back and forth thing, that's not. I'm okay if I don't succeed, though. If all I have are just 400 and something subscribers on my YouTube channel, that's okay. I'm not trying to do YouTube as my job or trying to get money off of it some other people that they need to support their families, so I'm okay. If I'm terrible at this stuff, I hope I improve, but I noticed a lot of people from your channel came and they were offering me a lot of advice to become the best apologist that I can be. And I just wonder, where is this coming from? I never said that's what I was trying to do. Necessary. And if nothing else, you could just understand why their arguments, are wrong. When you start learning it, you start seeing it all over, and it's not as easy for you to fall and just easily accept somebody.
I'd be careful here, Susan. I've personally known people who got deep into apologetics and left the faith because of it. It does happen.
Else's yeah, I don't know about that. it would be interesting to hear who those people are and what their experience was. I think that there are a lot of factors why people leave the faith. I don't think that it's just the apologetics for their situations that got them. Maybe it was something they heard that it was like the last thing that that plunged them into taking that decision, to leave the faith. I think a lot of other factors, like how you were raised, the kind of teaching you receive at your church. Just because you grow up as a Christian or you go to a church all your life doesn't mean that you're actually learning like the Bible. There's a lot of churches that are just teaching about like living a blessed life, or they're creating their own interpretations of what the Bible says. So I think a lot of different things can factor. Sometimes bad experiences in the church, and I'm sure you've heard more of these stories than what I'm sharing here. Argument, like you feel like you're equipped to be able to kind of like the Bible. Yeah, but I was gonna say just because that happens to some people, and I don't think it's just the apologetics, but just because that was someone's experience doesn't mean that that's going to be everyone's experience. We don't even know if that's going to be like half of the people's experience when they look into apologetics. For me personally, that's not the case. I find apologetics so interesting, and you know what, it helps me to engage with a lot of these questions that maybe people outside of the church have, but maybe even people inside the church, but they just don't ask them, for whatever reason. It says that put on the whole armor of God.
How many former Christians still remember, or how many atheists know what the full armor of God is? Can you name, I think, is there 5, 7? Helmet, breastplate, sword, belt. There's no shoes in the armor of God, is there?
Just gives you the tools in order. Yeah, I think so. Let's look it up. See, been a Christian all my life and I don't know that Bible verse by memory. The armor Bible verse. It's right here. Let's see here. It's in Ephesians 6, verse 14. Stand firm then with the belt of truth buckled around your waist, with the breastplate of righteousness in place, and with your feet fitted with the readiness that comes from the gospel of peace. In addition to all this, take up the shield of faith, with which you can extinguish all the flaming arrows of the evil one. Take the helmet of salvation and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of God. All right. In order to be able to, tear down certain arguments, as far as, even if they reject them, you help yourself and you guard your own faith.
Yes, apologetics is not so much for evangelism, although I'm sure it can be. It's to build the faith of the person doing the apologetics. I've asked Christians this question about the philosophical arguments for God, the ontological, the moral argument, the cosmological argument, the teleological argument. Most people believe in a higher power to begin with, so these arguments are to build the confidence in the believer. Hey, thank you so much for the donation.
Hold on. Is that a bad thing, though? Apologetics. You have people that are already believing, right? Some people don't even need, they don't think they need apologetics to have faith. So how can you build more faith if they already have faith, right? To me, it's more of, we have questions, and apologetics is just, it's like Google. You look for the answer. That's you should have an answer in Christianity, right? You raise a question, Christianity should give you an answer. And the same goes for any religion, right? Even atheists, right? You can ask them a question about atheism and they should have an answer, right? Their own philosophies. So why would it be any different in Christianity? It's not something like, just because Doug has answers for why he isn't a Christian, or why he identifies as an atheist, just because he can give me an answer doesn't mean that he's what is it, like, you wouldn't say building his faith, right? But maybe like building his confidence for why he is identifying as an atheist. I think it's just, these are just answers, and you decide what you do with them. If you find them convincing, then that's your decision, and if you don't, then that's your decision as well.
Godless GLK, greetings from West Palm Beach, Florida. Ooh, that's probably a nice place to live.
Well, so I'm excited to continue.
Shanna Q, that's a good question. I wonder if she would ever talk to me. I'm not a big, scary Doug-shaped dude. But I don't have hair on my back. So I'm not like these other men. And those. Well, I think just male apologists have hair on their back.
To learn about apologetics? I would, Shannon, but I think right now I'm more into doing like the Zoom conversations and then like uploading it on my channel. So I don't know, maybe we would be able to do something like that. I would be interested in doing that. As a woman, as a mother, and I hope you are as well. And if you're not a woman, I think you should learn apologetics as well.
Okay, I'm going to learn apologetics as well. Okay, we're going to go to the...
All right. So I think I'll pause here, and I think I'll make a part 2, because he's going to go over a second video. And I think so far it's kind of a long video. So I think we'll leave it for next time. And I think it's been fun going over this video. I hope you thought so too. And we'll get into like more of the Doug's questions on Christianity next video. So please subscribe if you haven't already. Please leave me your comments. Please do not attack my character without even knowing me, like last time. All right, guys.